What I'm going to show you now is a series of graphs. These come from a very good compilation of economic data that is called the State of Working America. Economists gather a whole bunch of different kinds of data and put them together in ways that ordinary people, folks like you and me, can understand. This might be a little hard to read. I'll send you this link later today, but this is a chart that shows you about the distribution of wealth in the United States over most of the 20th century, starting in 1917. Okay. It's going to be hard from where you're sitting to see some of this, but the pink part on top, that is the top 1% of people in the United States in terms of wealth. Right. The other colors as you go down are go below that. The top 5%, the top 10%, and then the bottom 90%. So there are four groupings in this. The top 1%, the top 5%, the top 5 to 10%, and then the bottom 90. And what you can see is the growth of wealth. People in the bottom 90%, flat. People in the top 5 or 9%, slight increases. The top 1%, phenomenal increases in wealth. This shows you what has happened to wealth inequality over most of the 20th century. Right. There have been some ups and downs depending on economic cycles. You see in the Great Depression, things changed considerably. Economic inequality went down. But over time, the growth of inequality in the American economy has gone up tremendously. This chart shows you that. All right, here's another one. Same study, the State of Working America study. Average wealth by class. Right? Here they break down into what they call quintiles. They do chunks of 20%. The top 20%, the next 20%, and so on. And you can see, again, in a graphic sense, wealth inequality in the United States. Okay? Also important, I think, always to remember that this wealth inequality has a racial and ethnic character to it. If you look at poverty rates, you see that black and brown, African American and Latino people in the United States, it varies up and down, but roughly poverty rates twice that of white America. So there's a lot to consider here about the basic state of wealth inequality and the racialized nature of wealth inequality in the United States. Again, I'll send you these links and you can look at it in more detail. The point I'm trying to make is that this seems, at least to me, relevant to a discussion of democracy. If, in fact, your ability to affect the political process, if your ability to become active in the political realm, in the realm where decisions about power are made, and a basis in wealth can increase your influence in that political realm, we have to take stock of that. Now, hold on, one more. Here's what I want to do. We're going to try a little experiment today. It includes an audience participation component. Are you ready? You're going to have to get up. All right, so start getting ready for this. Here's what I want to do. Here's another chart. You know, economic statistics, you can slice them and dice them in all sorts of ways. And for purposes of this exercise I want to do, I'm going to go to that top chart. This is a scholar, a very good sociologist who's, I'll send you this website too, has put together a lot of data and analyzed some of this data about wealth inequality. We'll take the latest numbers from 2007 in that top chart. The top chart shows you the distribution of net worth. Net worth is your assets minus your debts, basically. There's lots of ways to chart, wealth. You can look at income, you can look at total financial wealth, you can look at net worth, all sorts of ways you can do this. Net worth is the value of all marketable assets minus all debts. Marketable assets means those things that can be sold. Okay, so net worth is a good measure of how well people are doing. Your net worth says something about the resources you have and the material level at which you can live. You all have a net worth. Your parents have a net worth. I have a net worth. In the United States, 2007, the data at the bottom of this first chart, the top 1% of the population of the United States controls 34.6% the net worth. So the richest 1% have about 35% of the wealth of the country, basically. The remaining top 19% has another 50.5. Okay, so what that means is the top 20% of the United States, the 20% of the United States at the top, the richest 20% of the United States controls 85% of the wealth, basically, has 85% of the net worth. 20% of the people, 85% of the wealth. That means the other 80% of the people, the bottom 80%, control 15%. Okay? Now, here's what I want to do to try and give us an experience of what this means. I think a rough count suggests there's about 200 people in class today. So what I want to do is select out 20% of you. 20% of 200 would be how many people? Make you do some math. 20% of 200? 40. Very good. Somebody remembers algebra, math, arithmetic. 20% of 200 would be 40 people. So we're going to select at random 40 people who will represent the wealthiest Americans. Okay? I'm just going to do it in the front row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Okay, so basically the first 3 rows, you're the elite. Aren't you glad you sat in the front today? All right. So the first 3 rows, you got into character now. You're elite, remember? You're wealthy. So start acting like it. Okay. The rest of you are the bottom 80%. Okay? Right. Sorry, it's just, I don't have anything against the rest of you, but you're just sitting in the wrong seats today. All right. So we've got 20%, 80%. Now, I'm not going to give you all money to play with, so don't worry. I'm not going to hand out bills. We're going to use space as a stand-in for money. So the top 20% of the people, those 40 in the first 3 rows, they get 85% of the space in the class. So what do you think 85% of the space is? All of this, is this about 15% maybe? We're doing this roughly. Is that okay? Okay. So here's what I want you to do. And bear with me. This is going to take a little effort. Those of you who are in the bottom 80% of the class, representing the bottom 80% of folks in the United States, you're going to go to your space, which is only 15%. So all of you in the first 3 rows, you all doing okay? Okay, you feeling good? Okay, I want to make sure because the first 3 rows are special. The rest of you I don't give a shit about, but the first 3 rows I want to make sure. Can I get, excuse me, quiet. The people in the first 3 rows, I'm talking to them, okay? Can I get you all some coffee, maybe some croissants? We'll do that later, okay. Now, those of you in the back, right, the masses, you're going to get up and you're going to go over here, excuse me. Right? You can leave your stuff where it is if you want to, but I want all of you to get up and go over into your space, your 15%. Those of you in the first 3 rows can stay, right? Right? All right. So all of you get over in your space. Right? Everybody move in. Come on, I don't have all day. Let's move it. Sometimes you have to be harsh with the bottom 80% because they don't learn. I don't know what it is about them. I think they're slow. There may be something congenital about it. I don't know. All right, come on, back, fill in. Come on, back, back, back. First 3 rows. Don't be touching people in the first 3 rows. I don't want you touching them. Okay? There's some open seats. Come on. Do you people have trouble understanding that section of the class? Move on down. Come on, let's move, people. Goodness gracious, sometimes I wonder how we even get through the day with the bottom 80%. It's like, I try to be nice to them. I'm a moral person. It's not their fault they're slow. It's, come on! I'm just trying, I hope I didn't hurt your ears or anything. Come on, let's move, come on. Excuse me, is this part of your 15%? No, it's not, ma'am. Over, come on, move, move, move. All right. All right, now, the rest of you, now that they've cleared out, feel free to spread out, you know? You want to put your feet up. Go make yourselves at home. This is your space, okay? Because you're crowded there. I mean, some of you are sitting next to another person. Go spread out. Take a load off. God knows you've deserved it, right? You've certainly earned it, okay? All right, yeah, relax. Just, that's fine. All right, now, hey, you in the back. You're not listening. I said into your 15%. That's not your 15%. Right? You do not own that space. What are you talking about, young lady? I said, move. Yeah, move. If you have to crowd, listen, it's not my fault. Don't blame me. This isn't my problem. It's your problem. All right. Can I get you anything? Are you? All right. Oh, good. Okay, just kind of stretching. That's fine. Whatever you need to do is fine. He's one of the top 20%. Special. Good-looking young man, don't you think? Top 20%? Yeah. You know, it's actually interesting, just doing a quick survey. The top 20% are consistently better looking than the bottom 80% too, don't you think? I mean, it's obviously you're smarter. That's why you're in the top 20%. But, you know, it's just, I guess that's just, maybe it's just a natural phenomenon. I don't have the energy to say one more time in the back, you know, the super stupid. I'm sorry, I know it's not polite to say, but okay. Now, how you feeling, bottom 80%? Having a good time? This is probably my favorite day of class so far. I'm having a lot of fun with this. How are you? How you feeling? Crowded. Well, that's not crowded enough. I'm going to let you stay in the aisles, but you got to move over. You're not in the right. Maybe you all should move down a little. Just don't. 1, 2, 3. Okay, there. This is your line. Okay. All right. Now, while you're arranging, let's make the simple point here. Now, we're not talking about the economy here. We're using the class as a stand-in. So, if we organize J310 this way, where every day the top 20% got their run of most of the space, the 85% of the space, and the bottom 80% were crowded into that 15%, reflecting the net worth figures that are on the chart. If every day we came in like this, and I said to you, listen, everybody in this class is equal. You're all going to read the same textbooks. You're all going to listen to the same lectures. You're all going to take the same unscheduled quizzes. You're all going to take the same exams. You're all going to be graded by the same standards that are articulated in the formal syllabus. Yes? Everything is going to be the same. The top 20%, like this extraordinary young man right here, part of the top 20%, this young lady, really a really wonderful student, right? All of the top 20%. In fact, let's give the top 20% a hand. These folks kick ass. I mean, these are the top 20% we know and love, right? Okay. So they're going to read the same books, listen to the same lectures, all the same, yes? Same as you. They're going to be in that space, and every day for 15 weeks, you're going to be in that space, okay? Now, if I came to you and said, listen, the top 20% and you are having the same educational experience. Same educational experience, yes? The syllabus is the same. Do I have a separate syllabus for you? No, you've got the same syllabus. Textbooks, same textbooks, yes? Lectures are going to be the same. Everything's the same. Your educational experience will be exactly the same as the people who are spread out on all that space. Would you believe that claim? Would your experience of the classroom support that claim? Now, just out of curiosity, how are you feeling right now about this little experiment we're doing? You want to be in the 20%? I don't blame you. Right? But you're not. I'm sorry. You're stuck. So do me a favor, will you? Shut up and accept your place in the world, okay? I don't want to hear any more shit out of you, okay? Yeah, trouble. In fact, don't forget, one phone call and UTPD are here, okay? All right. So right now you're probably saying, okay, Jensen, you made your point. We get it. Let's go back to our places. No, I think we should deepen the experience a little, don't you? Just let it sit. Now, I can say, I'm trying to look at faces, and some of you are saying, I really had quite enough of this little experiment, Jensen, you asshole. So just think about it. for all of, 7 minutes that you've been stuck in this position, I mean, it's a demonstration. We're not going to, or you think we're not going to stay like this for the rest of the class or the rest of the semester. Would be an interesting experiment. I'm rethinking. I was going to tell you you could sit back in your normal spots, but I don't know. Let me, hold on. Bottom 85%, do me a favor, shut up for a while. Top 20%, my people, how you doing? What do you think about, are you comfortable with this arrangement? Is it working for you? Okay. Should we let the other 80% back in your space? No? Okay, well, no, I'm sorry, but all right. I don't know. This is one of those moments where you wonder, there's a thin line between authority and anarchy. Right? Now, you all know that I'm in charge, yes? But if you're looking around, there's a lot more of you than there are of me. And so maybe it would be in my own self-interest to suspend the experiment, before you charge down on me and beat me into a senseless pulp for this experiment. So feel free to go on back, okay? All right. There's nothing subtle about what I'm doing here. The point is that in the economic system in which you live, the real system in which you live, in the real world in which you live, what we just demonstrated physically reflects the reality of the distribution of wealth. Right? That there is an extraordinary concentration of wealth in this society. That wealth inequality is not only quite large, as demonstrated today, and in fact, any way you look at the numbers, you'll see the same thing. You can take the top 1%, the top 5%, the top 10%, top 20%. Any way you slice it, when you look at the distribution of wealth in this country, you will see that wealth inequality. You will also see that wealth inequality is consistently racialized, that across the board, white America does better economically than black and brown America. All right. You will also find that as you look at the data, that wealth inequality is increasing in the United States and has been steadily increasing since the early to mid-1970s. So we are a dramatically unequal society in the distribution of wealth, and that wealth inequality is increasing. The racialized disparity in wealth is essentially unchanged, even with all of the dramatic and important changes that came out of the civil rights movement. So if you want to talk about democracy, it seems to me that one cannot talk about democracy outside of talking about economics. That the distribution of wealth is central to understanding the distribution of power. That the formal freedoms accorded to all citizens can be real, and I'm arguing, in fact, they are real. That freedom of speech, that freedom of association, the franchise and the ability to put yourself up for election, those are real. I'm not suggesting that's all fantasy. That's real, and those are important elements of a democratic system in a large, complex society like the United States. Hard to imagine a democratic society that doesn't have those features, freedom of speech, freedom of association, and open elections. That's what the Egyptian people are essentially asking for. They say, we've been denied freedom of speech, we've been denied freedom of association, and we have been denied the right to choose our own representatives through free, fair, open, contested elections. So this exercise is not to minimize or mock those freedoms and the institutions through which those freedoms are guaranteed. That's important stuff. The point of the exercise is to recognize that the distribution of wealth is going to affect one's ability to make use of those freedoms, that the concentration of wealth might have something to do with the concentration of power. And that these statistics demonstrate that, and demonstrate that quite clearly. Right. Now, why push this? Because in the United States today, it's assumed that, in fact, the first of those statements, that democracy depends on capitalism, is the correct statement. In the United States today, it's almost taken as a given that democracy depends on capitalism. You will hear people say over and over again that without a capitalist economy, you can't really have democracy. And there are reasons people say that, and as I said, some of those reasons are important. For instance, it's in capitalist economies that one sees the development of a middle class, and a stable middle class seems to be important to the development of stable democratic institutions. Right? All right. So there's all sorts of aspects of this, and the Dahl book goes into them, and you can pay attention to them. But there's also, it seems to me, an especially important point to make at this moment in American history, which is that democracy also, capitalism also undermines democracy. That because in capitalism we see concentrations of wealth like the statistics indicate, that concentration of wealth inevitably is going to lead to a concentration of power, and that's antithetical to democracy. That's, in fact, a reality that is going to impede democracy. It's going to undermine democracy. It's going to make democracy more difficult to achieve. Right? So, what do we do about that? It's an interesting question. This is not of interest simply, to play with data and do fun little experiments with the class. It leads to a profound question. If, in fact, an economic system that allows the concentration of wealth can undermine the ability of that system to be meaningfully democratic, then what do? Do we change the economic system? Right. Now, you know that in this country at this moment, to talk about that is a kind of political third rail. To talk about a significant shift in the way the economy is organized is, at least in the mainstream, political death. Can you imagine somebody standing up, running for office, in either the Republican or the Democratic Party, and saying, whatever else you think about capitalism, capitalism has produced phenomenal wealth inequality, and therefore capitalism is undermining democracy, and therefore we must consider a shift away from the capitalist system as we know it. If I stood up and said that, am I going to get elected? No, because even raising that question has been branded anti-American, yes? Well, anybody who says that, they're just anti-American. That's quite clear. Anybody who argues, because it's clear capitalism, it's right there in the Constitution, right? It's articulated right there in the Constitution. It's the economic system that is constitutionally mandated, correct? No, the Constitution doesn't say anything about it. The Constitution is a political document, not an economic document. All right. So my point is that this question is relevant. Again, there are 200 and some of you registered in this class, and I make no assumption that you share any particular position on these questions about the nature of the economic system. What I'm trying to suggest today is that instead of dealing with these questions as they are often dealt with in textbooks and in classrooms, theoretically, let's deal with them in the real world. Let's actually deal with how it works on the ground. And on the ground, there is phenomenal wealth inequality. We got to start dealing with these things as they play out in the world, not as how we imagine we would like them to play out in our first year economics class. So let's spend a little time doing that.